Hello, traders. Good afternoon. Welcome to this live webinar. Thank you for your patience as we started later than planned. Sorry for that delay, but happy that you're here. And yeah, it's also recorded, so anyone who missed it can see the recording on our website, of course, or YouTube channel, obviously. So this is the first session, I think, of the new year, which I already now see a mistake in. Oh, I didn't have to close the whole slide, but it's 2021 and not 2020 anymore. All right, that's part of the new year process. There we go. All right, so 2021. Um, Welcome to this first webinar in 2021, not 2020, obviously. So yeah, we're going to take a look at December results, which for Ultima EA, but also Russia were negative, and also London Open EA were negative. Only ZUSIE from an automated trading perspective, that from the automated trading systems that are on Elite Currency website at least, was positive. So 1 out of 4, unfortunately. So it was not a good month in December. We'll talk about that in detail in this webinar. Let's take a look, first of all, at the article that we released on Wednesday. All right, so if you, just in case you missed this, I will add the link here, but it explains what we have done based on that. So far, Ultimate EA from Mislav Nikolic, of course, from Bell Capital, this EA has hit the highest drawdown, as you can see in this image, that we've had basically in about 1.5 years of live trading. So that's a pity. We had, of course, moments where it came close to such levels already, end of 2019, summer of 2020, July 2020, and now again, crossing actually that resistance level, going into the 60-ish, low 60-ish zone. So that's a high drawdown, of course, and that is something that such a drawdown, of course, is tough. But can occur when you have, of course, such a risk per trade. It's risk per trade, not total risk. And there can be multiple trades open at the same time. So it is not necessarily 5%, risk in total, but 5% per trade. And because there could be multiple trades, it could be more than 5%. It could be 10, it could be 15, it could be 20, etc. Now, here you can see the stats a little bit better. With my personal account, it's at 61% drawdown. With the profit sharing account, it's slightly more, 62. And with the 3% risk per trade, it's 45%. And with 1% risk per trade, it's 13.8. 1% is still within the max drawdown. It didn't break it. The other 3 accounts did break the maximum drawdown. So of course, it's a combination. The system is, of course, seeing more losses recently, but it's also certainly the risk per trade. Of course, the more risk, the stronger and the more tough that drawdown is going to be. With 1% risk per trade, the drawdown is less than 14%. Of course, that is within the comfort zone of most traders, I would suspect. At least it's certainly, of course, a lot less than 60 or 45. So of course, the risk per trade is a strong factor in this. But without risk, of course, the gains will never be as much. As you can see, current results, including the drawdown, is 46 plus 46% since May. So that's about 1 year and 8 months, which is nice. But of course, it's a lot less than plus 357 with my account, or plus almost 300 with the 3% account. So still 357 is 357 is a lot. But of course, a lot of that profit was visible before May 2020 or sooner, and not after that, because if you look at the starting date of the profit share account since April 2020, it is down actually 30%. And 30% is a lot. So it's tough. It's not an easy spot for anyone, for the traders, for Mislav, for us. Of course, we would have love to share better news, obviously. So let me finish this article. Here you can see the drawdown taking place in these accounts. If you're curious, you can see the links and the images in this article. So what we decided to do, well, because of the fact that it did go into a drawdown territory that is like a new high from a drawdown perspective, unfortunately, right? That's not good. It's negative. We decided to lower the current risk, not 5% plus, but 3%, until we see some signs of a recovery. So we want to see some gains, but also we want to see some drawdown after that, because we don't want to increase the risk back to its previous level right at the moment that we had some profit, because there could be a drawdown after that, right? So we want to see some gains and then a drawdown, have a higher high and a higher low on the equity curve. Then we might consider moving it up again. For the moment, we want to reduce the risk to 3% to gain more information. Let it settle a little bit, see how things develop over the next months. Just to calm it down a little bit, because of course 5% is high risk. It's the max risk that we would ever consider. Generally, if you look at Forex educators, everyone mentions 5% is the max. So it's using the max is risky. So we lowered that just to gain some more perspective about what this drawdown is. Is it going to continue? Is this maybe this is the max? But we don't know that. No one has a crystal ball, obviously, right? So we want to see more information. We also decided to close it for the moment to new members because of the strong drawdown. We don't think it's appropriate to offer that in any way at this moment. But we are continuing with current members. Current members can continue to trade as long as you want. That is your choice. With the PAM, you have full access. You can, if you decide to stop, everyone has their own comfort zone. That is always 100%, 1000% your decision, obviously. If you decided to stop, you can do so. You can write to broker, key to markets, or I don't know how to, follow the process that allows you to stop. And I think there's a 24-hour period, and that's it, right? So it's very fast access to that if you decided that this is too much for you to handle. If you're renting the EA and still would like to wish to continue, then feel free to reach out to us and write us with your track record 2 weeks before the subscription date ends, and we will consider a free extension depending on your results that you can show. And in general, consider risk appetite, of course, and diversification options. As we've mentioned before, always good to have some diversification so that not all your eggs in one basket. That's never a good thing. So, and then we also announced our webinar. Okay, so that's logical. You're already here. So this is the first thing I wanted to share. Am I missing anything here? Yeah, new members current members who are trading the PAM may add capital. I know it sounds funny, but that is not disallowed. That is always up to you. Of course, if you do so, but it is not closed. That is, available for current members to do so, but it can only be, of course, obviously, as always, with risk capital you can afford to lose, because we don't know how, no one knows for sure. Just based on past performance is never a guarantee for future results. But the doors are not closed for current members to add capital. And because of the fact that when the drawdown happens, it's sometimes worth considering adding capital, because sometimes the drawdown ends and it could be a good moment point to find maybe a low point, a turning spot. But we never know if it is the turning spot, which is why it's always important that if any capital is added, it must be done with risk capital you can afford to lose within a well-balanced approach and portfolio. So I don't know. I'm thinking about it myself, and I haven't had the time yet to take any action yet due to my personal circumstances, but I am considering it, and I will let you know next week if I decided to add or not. I will share with you if I did that, okay, or not. Please remind me if I forget about it, but I will make a note. Try to make a note afterwards that I'll let you know. I will, of course, share my decision whether I add or not. If you feel uncomfortable, I would say don't do it. It depends on one's risk appetite, but it is closed for new members at this moment, um, just until we see how the strategy behaves in the next months. Okay, now let me switch to another screen. Hi, Joel. I will read your question soon. Just give me a second there. Let's see. Let's look at the charts. All right. There we go. Yeah, it's I Joel is asking if Ultima is picking up the trends quite late. Seems even though we're using the 50-minute world for entries, which is correct, Ultima is taking entries off the 50-minute world, although using multiple time frames for higher time frames actually for let's say the trend determination. It hangs on to a trade for too long in his view, and is that worth relooking? Yeah, it is struggling, I would say, since beginning of October. Funny enough, it had a profitable September, and it was going into October actually with some open trades that were looking quite good and would have put the account up if they hit target. I don't know, into some good territory, but they actually closed and turned in and lost. In fact, and that started this drawdown. From there on, beginning of October, we had 3 tough months. Oh, by the way, I will talk a little bit more about the other EAs in just a second, but I will focus on Ultima EA for a little bit now before we move on to other EAs, by the way. So, yeah, before that, we had a weaker period, let's say, but September was positive. April and May were, if I remember correctly, positive. Wasn't all too bad. It was around break even, let's say. So it was still kind of like hanging in there, let's say. But October, yeah, that's when the slide down happened. I don't know. I'm not sure. You see, when we look at the long term perspectives, there's always a very clear outcome, and that's that the current settings are the best. And the thing is that if we change those now, it's our view, it's a bit danger of curve fitting a very short period of time, and it could remove any chance of, or not any chance, but it could decrease the chance of finding that profitability when the drawdown is over. If we move the TPs much closer, or if we change the entries in any way. So tinkering with that based on a short data could lead to over curve fitting and over optimization. And that is risky. Everything is risky, of course, but what we do know with these settings is that they have a track record of 1.5 years of live trading. And in that time frame, they are positive. So if we change that, we don't know where we're going into, let's say. So it's not impossible. I guess it's a spot where you know doing one might be right, doing the other might be wrong. We don't have that crystal ball, so we're not sure. But if we had to choose between those two, we rather stick to the track record that is alive and focus on sticking to that and seeing if the drawdown can end. Um, the EA isn't it? Yeah, the trend. A part of the trend is there. Of course, this particular zone was arranged kind of a bull flag pattern. I agree that from about beginning November there was a trend, indeed. Um, I think that I'm not sure, but I think the trend, for whatever reason, uh, the maybe because of the I don't even want to dive into why. I don't know if it's even relevant, but maybe the elections. But whatever the reason was, U.S. elections. But whatever the reason was, we don't look at the trend on the daily. We look at it on the 4-hour chart, and every time it kind of broke through the range, it just the targets were either far or there was no entry because the trend already overextended according to the rules. So it never kind of fit the bill in some ways. But I agree that there were decent parts to the upside, but it never really compensated the moments where it didn't work as well. So um, yeah, so the red lines, but I agree generally that uh, there was some trend here, definitely, and some even the parts where it was a good trend, very 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 fairly, I think, definitely. And Ultima in the settings wasn't able to really capture that enough. But as I said, if we change that, it might be undermining the long term process. That's the thing we're thinking about. If you look at the red lines, let's say here, this is a consolidation within the trend. This is a consolidation within the trend. So here we had a good push up a few days. Here we had a good push up a few days, and maybe here, let's say, okay, here we had a good. This part I would consider it is moving up, but I would consider that already some type of corrective. I wouldn't. Yeah, that's more like some kind of rising wedge or very mild angled uptrend channel with quite a lot of corrective price action. So if you dissect that piece of the daily chart, as we said, the daily chart was in an uptrend since beginning of November, right? So if we dissect that part, then what really was left of that uptrend is 2.5 pieces in a way. And if Ultima missed some of that, well, for whatever reason, either because it saw the trend as overextended, then it didn't catch enough of the profit in that parts where it moved up to compensate the losses in the range. I think that's what happened, to be honest. My 2 cents at least. So this is our view. There were some questions in the forum that I will answer. I think Joe also had one of them. No, it was Joe. Sorry. All right. I think I answered Joe's question actually. He's asking what could happen in the next 6 months. Yeah, but he also is aware, of course, that we don't have a crystal ball. We don't have a crystal ball. I could just give my best guess, as I always do, of course, with analysis. And I, yeah, I think that the good thing is that the, let's see, let me redo this chart. Let's take a look at maybe good and bad news. Let's see. All right. Live trading started about this point. Back testing started about this point. All right. So yeah, I don't think necessarily a monthly chart will give us much information about that. About what kind of performance to expect. But so maybe let me go to a weekly chart. Maybe it'll be a bit better. Alrighty. All right. So yeah, we see quite good profitability in all of this, whether it was moving up, whether it was pulling back, whether it was falling, or whether it was kind of moving quite choppy to the downside actually here. So it doesn't seem to me that any particular weekly trend matters for its profitability. It's probably more about even lower time frames and what kind of movement we see there, because we see all kind of environments here, and the EA performed quite well throughout these years, no matter what kind of weekly environment there is. I think that is, in a way, good news. So it could be that if things start to settle a little bit in 2021, which I think they could with a COVID vaccine, my best guesstimate once again, with a different maybe political climate in 2021, with maybe a new presidency, for instance, or at least that presidency debate. Let's say that the fight for the presidency, right, being over or almost over, right, could settle things a little bit. So I think that a more stable 2021 might be possible because if that were a factor. Um, on the negative side, just looking at the weekly chart, we can't see necessarily if we get how the next 6 months are going to look like, because as you can see, there was all kind of types of environments visible, and the results were good, and then good and bad, regardless of what kind of environment we saw in the weekly chart. So I don't know if it gives us any information. That's the negative. From a technical point of view, personally, I think there are 5 waves up. I suspect an ABC down like this eventually, although it could go higher, and then I do expect upside. So I think that I don't think there will be a lack of price movement for good or bad, whatever that is. I think I'm leaning towards more good, but as you can see, that was not necessarily the case the last 2 months. Okay. Other question in our forum. Let's see. Yeah, the question Joe was asking about the take profits changes. And yeah, the system, we can take a look at back testing. The system itself, yeah, if we do any changes, it's not only about the long term, but it's about undermining the potentially undermining of any recovery by making those changes. That's yeah, for good or bad, that's just how we see it. If you're of course a renter, you can change that a little bit, at least by closing the trades where you want, for instance. Let's see. We got a question from Eagles. Why in this uptrend we see Ultima performing as it is? Not bad. At the start of previous year, it was also uptrend, and we had I think it has to do with this. I already kind of discussed. I think it has to do with the fact that in the 4-hour world, there were basically 2.5 moments where it did move up nicely, and if the Ultima saw some of this as overextended, it could have missed some of the trades, skipped some of the trades because of the overextension, and not make enough profit in the trending parts and lose too much in the ranging parts, and that flipping the balance to negative. That's my best guesstimate as far as I can see. All right, so that's Ultima, I guess. Let's move on now. Let me close the charts here and take a look at some of the other EAs. Correct, H. Ultima LOA EA is looking at a rough patch too. Absolutely, and that is a breakout system, and it just might be that there were a lot of false breakouts, a lot of turnarounds quicker than usual, and everyone, of course, is maybe wiser after the fact. It could have been the presidential elections. It's always difficult to say. I must, beforehand, I must say that 4 years ago, there was some drawdown, but it wasn't that significant actually. Um, or at least on the pound dollar 1 hour chart. I would have to check the euro dollar again, to be honest. I don't want to misspeak here. Um, but it wasn't something that, if I you know when I remember, it didn't worry us. I remember looking at that with Mislav, and it didn't worry us as much. Maybe this is a different political environment. Yeah, we decided to only adjust we did some changes. I forgot exactly what. I wish my memory was better. I think we stopped EA, or yeah, or didn't take new setups around the US actual election dates, as a precaution. So we did that, but we didn't extend it, for weeks or something like that. Maybe after the fact we should have. It's always so difficult. I mean, it was not, but yeah, it is what it is. We decided to only pause it, then continue for after, normal trading after that. But it could have maybe created an environment where price didn't move up that smoothly, or we didn't move in one direction that smoothly, with a lot of pullbacks and deeper retracements. And I think that the LOAEA is seeing that particular, maybe that kind of environment is impacting LOAEAs as well. The only one that wasn't impacted as much was SUSIA, and we could take a look. And SUSIA, of course, is a different type of system, which is with a lot shorter trades, a lot more trades, grid trading that is trying to trade a lot in both directions. So it's maybe less vulnerable to that type of environment as well. And here you can see RO and SUSIA now up 51. So that could explain why LOA is having a hard time too. Let's take a look at LOA, ZUSIA, and Russia. So this is our own account, up 51 in about half a year. And this is the other ZUSIA, the profit share up 22% in about 3 months. So I guess that was the only good news, unfortunately. Bad news was indeed the LOAEA going into a hefty drawdown, 27%, and bordering, I think maybe even crossing its max drawdown as well, by the way. I would have to double check. But certainly at the edge, if not over it. So certainly hefty drawdown there too. Let's take a look at the other one. We have two LOAEAs. A little bit less on this one, but still 20% drawdown and down 15%. So obviously, yeah, not a good 6 months. And this EA generally it's a bit slower. When you look at 10 years, good results, but we knew that there are going to be quarters that are going to be negative with LOAEA, and yeah, we see that right here. Yeah, thank you, Marius. I just see your comments right now, actually. Yeah, thanks for those words. Appreciate it, of course. With DAs, it's always a risk. I'm hoping for a turnaround, but yeah, basically our main decision is to keep going with the settings, for better or for worse, but with lower risk, basically, for the moment. Yeah, thank you, Joel. Indeed, it's steady as it goes. I mean, don't get me wrong. There could be moments, and I'm pretty sure there are going to be moments where the drawdown is going to be deeper. That there's going to be some losing streak that's going to be tougher. It's going to happen with Zusier as well at one point, but it's probably less often, as we can see at this equity curve. Um, I I can't say it's never going to happen. It probably will happen at one point or another. That's just part of trading. But yes, it does try to avoid that, as you can see, more than it's kind of its strength in a way that it can do that. It can avoid that more than others. The strength of the other EAs is different. It doesn't really try to avoid drawdowns. It kind of accepts it with open arms in a way, in the attempt to provide an EA that has the potential to push maybe strongly up at times. With ZCA, you kind of get steady results. You're not going to see a sudden month with maybe plus 50 or plus 100. That's not that type of EA. And then last but not least, Russia. Let me try to find that. Here we go. With Russia, Mislav account is looking a bit better. That's partly because there were some differences in the trades due to the broker. We're now copying trades from Mislav directly, so there should not be any difference between them anymore. That's already been done several weeks ago. I think about 6 weeks ago. So now the results should be very similar, if not the same. Because of the fact that there were differences in the past, Russia performance is looking better on Mislav than on our PAM. If we look at Mislav's account, it's performing slightly weaker than we expected, but not something that would worry Mislav, at least. I talked to him about it, and he is looking positively at this EA. As if we would get 2 losing months back to back in January, February, then he said that he would be a bit more cautious. He would be reanalyzing this, and he would do a new kind of statement on it, and would review it again and let us know. But he's for the next 2 months personally not concerned about its performance. As I said, Ari, had a little bit worse results because of that, but now we're in sync with him. Because of that, we are down because of that. Because we're down, we did also decide to reduce the risk on this from 5 to 3. And we would consider moving up again if we see a decent January, decent gain in January, February, or only January, depending on how it moves up, followed by a drawdown, because we don't want to increase it after a winning streak, because that would, if you then run into a drawdown, you get bigger losses. That wouldn't be good. So it's on the table, but not for the moment. We decided to, because it's a negative territory, to be a bit more conservative, and we go down to 5% as well. Mislav himself, as you can see, still up with the Russia, although the drawdown has been significant, but still up though. So yeah, that's his view though on Russia at this moment. So not an easy environment the last 3 months. Because of that, taking a step back, reducing the risk, and seeing how things play out in the first quarter, then the second quarter, and we'll decide about potential next steps in whatever direction. Reducing the risk maybe more. I don't think so, but who knows? Or increasing the risk, it depends all on the performance really. Month by month, we'll analyze that and see how it goes from there. Any other questions at this moment? Let's open up Ultima EA as well then. There we go. Yeah, you can see great Jan, great Feb. Even March, April, May were not bad really, because uh, hi H. I'm not blaming. I'm just cautiously thinking out loud. I rather not talk about any reasons, to be honest, because first of all, it annoys people. Secondly, I don't know myself. Um, so I always prefer to just analyze it without it, to be honest. So I fully understand your point there. But yeah, looking from the chart perspective, I think that the uptrend uh, was on the 4 hour chart, which is the main chart, right? The daily or weekly trend, as I just showed to you, doesn't really matter, right, for the system. The 4 hour uptrend since beginning November for those 2 months, I don't think Ultima, for whatever reason, was able to capture it enough to compensate the losses. That's, I think, the main thing, basically. Yeah, so March was very volatile. It avoided uh, trading there because of the big volatility, which was in a way good because it could have been too volatile. Anyhow, that's how the system responded to that. It has volatility filters. April, May was decent. Then we had some drawdown in the summer, down 22. Then we had some profit, plus 27 over August, September. So yeah, it was slow, but it was, I guess, if you count all of this, about break even, maybe slightly up, depending where you started. I started, of course, way before that, so etc. But yeah, last month's obviously very tough, even tougher than the months before, as it was going slow. But yeah, it's from Mislav's perspective, and I understand him here. He sees it as he built the system first of all for himself, and he was looking for a system that could create the most profit potential. And it did make 1,000% at one point. That was his high, at least, right? And he's still up about 500, I guess. He is happy with the profit in 2020. It's just that some traders, or maybe many traders, were not able to capture that because all of the profit was bunched up at the beginning, unfortunately. So that's just the frustrating part for those traders. From his perspective, he's still happy actually with the yearly performance. Uh, if you can, if you can remove the emotions and just look at that 2020 and look at the total, you know, um, let's take a look what Mislav made then in 2020. I mean, my account. This is my account, right? We can custom analyze it here. Let's see. There were other questions from Joel. I'm not sure, Joe, if you're following Mislav Nikolic, Bull Capital, through Elite Currency or through him himself. I if you follow us through us, if you follow him through us, then yes, it's down to 3%. If you follow him directly, then no. Um, Rush is very similar to Ultima, but there are some key differences in the targeting, in the entries, but there's logic and system rules that are shared indeed. Correct. So yeah, here I'm up to 18. This is my personal account, to 18. And let's face it, this is real results and not. I mean, not many EAs. I mean, I'm sure there are some EAs, but it's still 218. It's still quite a lot. I know it was a bad, let's say, the last 3 months and bad 6 months, but it's still up to 18. So that is how Misaf's looking at it. He's looking at the yearly performance, not even quarterly performance. That's what he was aiming for, basically, with this system. Um, this is Misaf's accounts. He's up 381 in total. We can ask. I think we can custom analyze this too. Yeah. So yeah, it can be frustrating. Certainly understand that. Just sharing his perspective. He's up 160. All right, so let's see. Of course, it's everyone's decision what they do. I mean, you can't. No one can join anymore. But if you are a current member, you can decide to do whatever you want. Stop, continue, etc. But this is yeah, all I wanted to share for the moment, I guess. Thanks for your patience in any case, and your questions and comments. Certainly understand that drawdowns are tough. Losses are tough, and of course, we don't know if it's a drawdown. It could be. I mean, we know it's a drawdown, but the drawdown could be worse, of course, or get better. I don't know. Let's see. Losses are tough, so certainly understand that. Hang in there. Understand your decision, of course, whatever you choose, 1000% your choice. But this is, yeah, basically how we see it. I will let you know about next week if I decided to add, as I mentioned. And well, we'll see you. Have a great weekend. Have a great day, and we'll see you in all kind of webinars and videos next week again. All right. Cheers. Bye.